The sexual health issue my groupmates and I are going to be talking about today is sexual violence. Sexual violence is any sexual activity when consent is not given. There are different kinds of sexual violence, including sexual harassment, sexual assault, and other forms of violence. Both men and women can be victims of sexual violence. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men experience sexual violence involving physical contact at least once in their lifetime. 1 in 5 women and 1 in 38 men have experienced complete or attempted rape. Sexual violence also starts early. Many experience it between the ages of 11 and 17, while a handful experience it before the age of 10. Although anyone can be a victim of sexual assault, the target population and geographic area we are going to be focusing on are women between the ages of 12 to 35 living in the United States. During the adolescent years, a lot of changes are happening to one's body. Not only that, but they are going through new phases and challenges in their lives. It is important to address this population because it can be challenging to talk to anyone when you're young and a sexual violence victim. Some may not even believe you. Early adulthood is also a challenging time. It comes with a lot of new challenges and experiences. It is a time where some settle down and find themselves fully. Being a sexual violence victim during this time in your life can affect the choices you make in your future. The United States is a huge country with many laws in different states. These laws can affect sexual violence victims. Many policies have been implemented throughout the United States from our research, which includes social emotional learning programs for youth, community-based interventions, proactive sexual harassment prevention policies and procedures, powerful voice, and first-line support. The first existing policy is social emotional learning programs for youth. Youth have a lot of learning to do in terms of learning about themselves and their bodies. This program teaches children how to handle their emotions and develop certain emotions. It helps children develop skills such as empathy, respect, healthy communication skills, and conflict resolution skills. This program has helped youth develop and use healthy relationship skills. It's helped them talk about their feelings with their partners, learn what is right and wrong, and learn how to treat their partner correctly. Kids and teens still have different experiences, and their experiences play a big role in their actions. Although this program is a big help, the role models and caregivers play a role in how they choose to act and what they choose to believe in.
When it comes to health, we typically look at relationships from one of 4 levels: the individual, the relationship, the community, or the society level. I reviewed the importance of community-based interventions and how they can help out society. Community-based interventions can be considered a primary prevention focus, whereas the typical and current focus on sexual violence prevention is dealing with the dynamics and consequences of sexual violence. Primary prevention is unique in that it works to prevent individuals from experiencing this violence at all by helping at-risk individuals talk about their feelings and future actions in person. Community-based interventions are ideal for busy urban cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, or New York, as there is a very high population. Therefore, a high population of individuals who have experienced or are currently experiencing sexual violence. Talking about the feelings and history you share with other individuals gives an insight to solutions and wants you may not have seen yourself. People who have experienced sexual violence also feel that they are doing something positive when they give back and help their community, serving as a reminder that you're not alone. Community-based interventions might not work as well in areas of high stigmatization where sexual violence can be swept under the rug or not taken seriously.
Hi, my name is Jacob. The policy that I introduce to you guys is called comparable words. Comparable words means give women more power and create less inequality between men and women. Also, this policy or program is addressed to decrease the power imbalance between men and women. Also increase the economic security for women. This policy also can decrease the gender inequality, since research has been shown sexual violence are linked to gender inequality. This is important because the vulnerable people have more high risk for sexual violence victimization. For example, the people vulnerable for financial employment and housing instability. Those people have a high risk for sexual violence. Then the program that I introduced you guys to for this policy is called Powerful Voice. Here is the Powerful Voice program. The Powerful Voice programs are focused to increase the job skill, cultural identity, and values for girls or young women, adolescents. However, the Powerful Voice program don't have empirical evidence linking to sexual violence, but it have evidence shows they can improve job skill for adolescents, and improving skill for adolescent or young adult or girl will lead to the risk of poverty, which are the known risk factor for sexual violence victimization. At the end, this program can really help our policy. Our next policy is called the Protected Sexual Harassment Prevention. Creating protected environment in workplace, schools can lead to some kind of sexual violence. We can address it by training people how to prevent sexual violence. And many studies have been shown specific training to prevent sexual violence in workplace can lead to sexual violence in workplace. For example, we can make sure people know that sexual harassment is a form of sexual violence. Also, we can teach people how to report sexual violent behavior in workplace. Here's the summary of existing policy. In most social emotional learning programs for youth have been effective in many cities in the United States. Also, CBS have more success in big cities such as Los Angeles, New York City, and Dallas. Last of the summary of existing policies, a study about protected sexual harassment prevention policy and procedure in Canada shows that protected policy with information about policy were associated with fewer incidents of sexual harassment in 12 months.
Often, first-line support is the most important care that you can provide for an individual that is a victim of sexual violence. First-line support provides practical care and response to a man or woman's emotional, physical, and safety and support needs without intruding his or her privacy. It involves 5 simple tasks, which both respond to emotional and practical needs at the same time. The letters and the words lives can remind you of these 5 tasks that you can do to help protect these individuals' lives. For the L in lives, you're going to be listening to him or her with empathy without judging them. The I is to inquire about needs and concerns, to assess and respond to their various needs and concerns, whether that's emotional, physical, social, and or practical. For the V, it's to validate, to show them that you understand and you believe them, and you want to assure them also that they're not the one to blame for being in the situation that they are in. For the E, it's to enhance safety, to discuss a plan to protect him or her from further harm if violence occurs again. For the S in lives, this is to support them, helping them connect with information, services, and social support. You don't need to try to solve their problems or try to convince them to leave the violent relationship or convince him or her to go to any services such as police or the courts. You also want to try to avoid asking detailed questions, because this can force them to relive the painful events. You also don't want to ask them to analyze what happened or why, or try to pressure them to tell them how they're feeling or how they want to react to the event. Often, according to WHO clinical policy guidelines for first line support, it has been found to help reduce sexual violence by escalating to more major injuries that could possibly lead to death.
In conclusion, social emotional learning programs for youth have been effective in many cities in the United States. Community-based interventions have more success in big cities such as Los Angeles, New York, and Dallas. And a study about proactive sexual harassment prevention policies and procedures in Canada shows that proactive policies versus information-only policies were associated with fewer incidents of sexual harassment in the last 12 months. The first policy we came up with was an add-on to sexual education classes. So sex ed classes are given to middle and high school students, and they usually only include information about different contraceptions and how to practice safe sex, but nothing about consent. This intervention is just an add-on to the curriculum of sex ed classes. It includes information about how to rightfully give consent, how to handle your emotions, and how to speak out when needed. Sex ed classes are a time when students learn more about how to handle themselves when they reach that period in their life. This intervention will work better than policies already in place because it is usually easier for students to speak out during class than when they are talking to their parents or caregivers. This means it is a more comfortable time for them to ask any questions to their peers or teachers about consent if it is still not understood. This intervention will work better to prevent misunderstandings they have with their partner during intimate moments in the future.
To persuade community members and individuals to act upon any signs of sexual violence in public settings, I want to introduce a policy that would require large alcohol operating businesses that also employ security guards, such as bars, nightclubs, and venues, to have a system set in place that allows for people to secretly notify staff when they feel they are at risk for sexual violence or if they see it in others. I've seen an operation like this work in clinics where females who are submitting pregnancy or STI tests are able to mark their name in red pen if they would like to privately speak to the doctor about the violence in their relationship. This initiative, let's call it Bar Talk, would serve a great purpose in cities like Los Angeles, where individuals may encounter sexual violence following a night downtown along with the consumption of alcohol. This would work best as a sign or flyer posted in the male and female restroom where they are instructed to order certain drinks based on what they're experiencing. For example, if a female is on a date feeling very uncomfortable and wants to leave, she could easily go to the bar and ask for a tank shot. I create an example of what this poster can look like. Doing something as simple as this would not only allow females to feel safe, but would also let possible predators be aware that they are being watched. The policy that I came up with for to help encourage would be sexual violence support group, however, through an app. So instead of having to go in person, this would be very convenient for a lot of individuals for, say, are maybe scared to go to a support group physically or don't want to call anybody. They just want to have the resources on their phone and be able to just at a click see the different options that they have. Or even if they're let's say they're younger victims, they're scared to go to support groups because they don't want to tell their parents where they're going, or they don't know how to tell their parents where they're gonna be at. This gives them the ability to just do it at the just by their phone. Also, to be updated with modern society, about 95% of teens now say they have or have access to a smartphone, which represents about 22% increase from the 73% of teens who said this back in 2014, 2015. So coming up to date with society is very beneficial. Now, how would this app be different than any other kind of support group? So this app specifically, my app will allow you to change the name of the app to whatever you like, because what if there is a couple that this for say, I don't want to say a woman in particular, but let's say a woman is in a stressful situation with her spouse and she's in a sexual violence situation, and her partner is very controlling, constantly going through her phone. If he sees an app for a support group that she's trying to come out and, you know, report the situation, it might make the matter worse. So with my app, you'll be able to change the name of the app, that way it's not noticeable, as well as you know, it'll implement the whole lives policy that was discussed earlier in this presentation, to listen, to inquire, to support them, but just in a different way, up to date with modern society by using an app.
Teach skills to prevent sexual violence. A policy to prevent sexual violence can be to teach skills to prevent sexual violence. Teaching how these skills will promote safe dating and safe intimate relationship skills, will develop great emotional skills, and promote healthy sexuality. This policy will work differently than the other policies already in place, because this policy will impact the individual's behavior not only within itself, but also with family, school, and the community.
So in conclusion, with all of our new policies that each of my group members came up with, this will help reduce sexual violence by creating more knowledge in sex ed classes, by not just teaching individuals how to protect themselves from STDs and from pregnancy, but also to make them aware of sexual violence cases and what you can do and what kind of support systems are out there. And this can help reduce that, as well as for the bar talk, this allows more social cues to be normalized. So if a person is caught up in a situation in public where they're really uncomfortable and they feel like they're experiencing sexual violence, or they're scared that they might happen to them while they're at that specific place, I think not only people that work at bars, but just as a community as a whole, we should be aware of these kind of social cues. As mentioned in the slides, want us to order your ride home or order a tank shot, you know, just little cues like this. Community should be able to pick up on these cues, as well as expanding our outreach to individuals, not only support groups via phone, through having to go in person, but as well as apps that you can change the names for individuals who are in a relationship that are, you know, constantly monitored by their partner and they can't really go out. This allows those individuals to have those support groups just by their phone. The presence and occurrence of sexual violence has unfortunately existed for as long as records show. Since 1 in 5 women experience sexual violence in their life, and 54% of sexual violence is experienced by 18 to 34-year-olds, women and young women should be protected with a lot of effort from our community, government, and public health officials.